Joining me is Zaid Jilani, Communications and Outreach Coordinator for United Republic and reporter for Republic Report. Zaid, great to talk to you. I want to start with this incredible Walmart story where someone claiming to be a reporter actually went and interviewed warehouse workers. It turns out that they were actually part of a lobbying firm that was essentially spying on Walmart workers. Talk about how this entire thing got started.
Yeah, so there's a group of workers out in Los Angeles area. They formed an organization called Warehouse Workers United, and basically what they're doing is they're trying to organize to keep out sort of abusive practices of Walmart. Walmart's trying to move more aggressively into that area, and they want to organize and make sure that if it does move in, that it treats its workers fairly. And a lot of them don't even want to see Walmart expand in that area. So what happened was there was this a young woman. She appeared at one of their press conferences. She started talking to them. She said that she was a student at USC and that her name was Zoe Mitchell. But some workers got really suspicious and they actually looked her up and they found that her name was actually Stephanie Harnett, and she worked for a lobbying and public relations firm called Mercury Public Affairs. And Mercury Public Affairs, at first just sort of locked it down. She took down her Twitter account. You didn't hear much from them. First, they said that she acted completely on her own. Walmart was actually a company that was hiring Mercury Public Affairs during this entire period. It was a client of theirs to deal with sort of the backlash against Walmart in the Los Angeles area. And Walmart said that we also didn't ask her to go and pose as a spy. So both those places sort of distanced themselves from her. And eventually, she was apparently let go from Mercury Public Affairs, although she hasn't done any sort of interviews, so we don't know exactly what happened.
All right, so let's stop there for a second. So number one, during the time that she did this, was Mercury already doing work with Walmart?
Yes, my colleague Lee Fong and I, we both went to Mercury Public Affairs' branch here in Washington, D.C., because they have branches all over the country, and we asked them if Walmart was a client of theirs, and they wouldn't confirm anything about what Stephanie Harnett was doing, but they did indeed confirm that Walmart was a current client of theirs when she was doing this.
Okay, and is there any doubt that the so-called Zoe Mitchell is indeed Stephanie Harnett from Mercury? Is there any question about that at this point?
No, there's no question about that. There's photographic evidence. They took pictures of her as they were at her event. It matches with pictures from Mercury, and Mercury also confirmed that as well.
Okay, so is it believable, this idea that Walmart didn't know nor ask nor endorse Mercury to have anyone do this, and also that Mercury had no idea that Stephanie was doing this? I mean, is that believable?
We were the first outlet to really report about this, but after we reported about this, Gawker also wrote about it, and someone contacted Gawker. I guess they were talking to them on background. They said they worked for a public relations firm also, and in 2005 they also spied on a group of workers. I think it was in Ohio or somewhere like that. We don't have definitive proof that Walmart necessarily directs people to do this or asks firms to do this, but we do know that other people are stepping forward saying that they did similar things on behalf of Walmart. And it's certainly, this is a company that just had to deal with the scandal of spending millions of dollars bribing officials, south of the border in Mexico. This isn't a company that's, necessarily you wouldn't expect to do something like this.
So what's the goal of all this? What do you think was the initial goal of even of Stephanie going in there? Is it just to get a sense for what may Walmart have to deal with as far as collective bargaining or collective actions from these warehouse workers, or what was the idea? What was the goal?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think Walmart, just like any other sort of paranoid large employer, is always thinking that its employees are up to something, and especially this company in particular, because Walmart has a very, very strong anti-union record. Almost none of their stores are unionized in the United States. There are some overseas that are unionized. I remember there was one branch in Canada that unionized, and I think they responded by shutting the entire store down. This is how Walmart treats union workers, and so it isn't terribly surprising that they'd hire a group like Mercury Public Affairs to do some sort of work on behalf of them. Now again, Mercury and Walmart claim that Stephanie used this tactic all on her own, but they haven't really told us what Mercury was supposed to be doing for Walmart, just
Yeah,
that
right. Well,
Walmart was their client.
that's the question, isn't it? If she decided to do this on her own, I can't imagine it was completely disconnected from what she was supposed to be doing. If we believe for a second that this specific action was she came up with it all on her own, so then the question is, what kind of work was she supposed to be doing for Walmart through her employer Mercury? Do we have any idea of that?
When I went to the branch here in Washington D.C., I asked the managing director there, Peter Barden, about this, and he was completely tight-lipped. He didn't want to talk about what the work that they were doing. He said he had no idea that it was all being run out of California, and in California, they haven't said anything more to anyone who's inquired. So it seems to me like they kind of want to have it both ways. They want to say, well, one, we had Walmart as our client, but of course, no, we didn't ask anyone to spy on anyone.
Okay, and my last thought on this here is that we heard kind of a similar line when this Fox and Friends producer created, produced, edited, and ran this 4-minute, what was essentially an anti-Obama ad twice during Fox and Friends. And then we heard from Fox News executives, we didn't know he was working on it, we didn't authorize it to air, we just didn't know a thing about it. And both times I'm just thinking to myself, how likely is it that these organizations really just have absolutely no idea that they have these rogue employees who, if you believe the line, are just coming up with these ideas completely on their own? It just doesn't really strike me as that easy to believe. What do you think?
I think it's sort of a pattern of behavior. I think that it's kind of remarkable that these people who are some of the most powerful people in our politics, people like Walmart, people lobbying operation, people like Mercury Public Affairs, which have tons of corporate and lobbying clients, that run the gamut. It's sort of ironic that people this powerful can't seem to take responsibility, or that they allow young junior people, as they claim, to continue to behave in ways that causes embarrassment for them. I mean, it seems like it's almost those things don't mesh well together. That one, you're very professional in this business, and two, you have junior employees going off and doing these things supposedly by themselves. I mean, my colleague Lee Fong actually wrote a short piece looking at how other lobbying groups did a very, very similar thing. I mean, the coal lobby in 2009 sent letters to civil rights groups, sort of using race baiting to demand that people support coal lobbying. When they were caught, they blamed the campaign on a temporary employee. Health insurance companies did the same thing in 2009 when they sent fake letters to local newspapers saying that they were elderly citizens instead of health insurance lobbyists. They blamed all of that incident on an intern. I think it's just really, really ironic to me that these people want to say, one, they're the most professional people in the industry, they help you get results, they're powerful lobbyists, and two, they have these rogue junior employees going all over doing this stuff. I mean, it seems to me like something's amiss here.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when Newt Gingrich got those T-shirts printed in Ecuador at the same time he was talking about American jobs, and then they blamed it on an intern or something like that. Although, clearly his campaign was a disaster since they didn't even get him on the ballot in so many places. So maybe in that particular case, it's believable. Zaid Jilani, Communications and Outreach Coordinator for United Republic, and also a reporter for Republic Report. Great work, Zaid. Great to have you on, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks, David.